And I came out at 19 and realized I'm a little gay, just like a little bit.
Is there still a fantasy?
End of the world, like earthquake sex could be a fun, like pretend fantasy thing.
What is like the worst date?
We were using a condom, and the condom like comes off inside of me, and I start laughing immediately because like, what do you do?
We start fooling around, but then I don't finish. And then he kicks me out of his place. He's like, sorry, I have to sleep the next night.
Rise and shine, ladies. You're tuned in to Skirts Up with Samantha and Melissa.
We got your daily dose of hope and humor while we discuss everything from failing to succeeding
and all the spiciness in between.
What's up, Skirts Up Squad? It's Samantha
And Melissa.
How are y'all doing today? We're so glad to be here with you.
We are very excited.
And I just want to remind you guys that now we have a YouTube channel.
Yeah. Actually, that's really exciting.
It is really exciting. It's called the On the Porch with Sam and Mel, and that is when we have image with these.
See us.
And we talk about the episode that was released previously, 7 days before. So now you get an episode every week, but on a different segment in a different platform.
So you get like a real episode on our podcast. And then you get our like a 15-minute beat, kind of like going over what we talked about the previous week.
And what our thoughts were on it and what you guys have very kindly commented to us.
Oh, yeah, because sometimes there's corrections, guys. We know.
Corrections and comments. We get a lot of...
We love both.
Yeah. People message us and they're like, oh, I love that, or I want more of that. And we like that.
We do, actually.
It tells us what we're doing well and where we need to work.
That's right.
So Melissa, did you think of a fail for this week?
So I guess my fail is just that I swear I was in the car driving with Jacob or my husband, Brett. I can't remember who it was. And I remember doing something really dumb and making like the craziest comment. And then they looked at me just like out of the side of their eye, like, what did you just say? Did you just say that? And then I said, oh, remind me, that's going to be my fail. And I forgot it. So my fail is that I know I'm ADD. I know I should write things down. And I literally thought I should type this in my phone and make myself a note. Did I do it? No, I did not. Did I bring a notebook today to write down notes? No, I did not. So Sam so kindly has prepped me with paper and pen, but
always prepared. So mine is actually something stupid too. I did and said something stupid. So we moved out into the middle of nowhere, and the kids now don't have friends. They're used to a neighborhood full of friends and having all these kids to play with. And someone has moved in on the property across the street from us. We all have pretty decent sized properties, so we're not close neighbors, but the closest that there is out here. And so they moved in, and they have a child that's a good in-between age of the kids. So we went over to and talked to them. They had come over and introduced themselves briefly, and then invited us over to let the kids meet. And so we're over there, and I'm meeting the wife for the first time, and I'm chit-chatting. The dads are chit-chatting, and the kids are playing, and we're talking about how we both have just moved into these houses and how the people that lived in the houses previously were dirty. And so the wife was talking about how the people that lived in their house before them must have never cleaned their oven because it was really disgusting. Mm. And I go, well, I can't really say anything because I've cleaned our oven because it's got like the self-cleaner and like it's still not clean. And they're like, oh, you have the self-cleaner? I was like, yeah. So, I like threw the water in the oven and turned on the self-cleaner and it still like looks like shit. And they just looked at me and they're like, you threw water in the oven?
Like you thought it was a dishwasher?
I asked my mom. I said, Mom, it has a self-cleaner on it. So what do I do? And I swear to God, she swears this is not what she told me. But I swear she said you put water in the oven. And so maybe she said, like, maybe she meant you put a pan of water in the oven. And I just assumed that she meant dump the water in the oven. So it's like worse than before I cleaned it.
Hey, that's the best. And now you know how to use self-cleaning ovens?
No, I still don't. But the neighbors probably think I'm real dumb. Everyone got a good laugh. It was so funny. The husband looks at me and he goes, at least she tried. And I was like, oh, dear God.
Oh, that's so funny. That's okay. I can show you how to use it later tonight.
That would be good. Yeah, it's rough in there.
Oh my God. I love it.
Oh, we have something else exciting.
Yes.
So today we are talking about dating, what it's like right now in Atlanta and in general. And we actually have a few call-ins.
Because neither of us are dating.
Neither of us are. We're married. I'm happy to be married. I'm glad I'm not
On a
dating.
good day.
Yes. This weekend I went to a concert with Courtney that y'all met last week, and I have never ever in my life this young man child. He was really sweet, so I don't mean this like he was inappropriate or whatever. But he sat with us for like 2 hours, and we let him like hang out with us like while we were just sitting in the lobby like eating and whatever. And we were talking about our kids and our husbands the whole time.
Yeah.
This sweet little baby, like at 1:00 in the morning after we parted ways to like go to bed, he comes to our hotel room and knocks on the door. I open it and he goes, would you like to join me in my room tonight?
Oh, no.
And I was like, I just looked at him. I mean, he looks like he is probably 19, but he swears to God he's 24.
He put all his eggs in your basket.
And I just looked at him and I was trying so hard not to laugh. And I was like, oh, baby. I was like, remember, I got a husband and kids and I'm going to go to bed.
You're like, I'm also at a time when I actually have to have a bedtime. I'm past that age.
I was like, man, I mean,
Oh, no.
it was so funny. And we watched this old couple that arrived to the hotel separately, like they did not know each other, met at the hotel bar, and by the end of the night, they were banging, like in public. Like,
no, they were not.
I mean, we saw her whole vajayjay. Like,
You did not.
I'm not kidding. I wish I was. It was wild.
Oh my
It was
God.
so wild.
Some people are just living their life, and I love it.
Okay, I got us sidetracked. We're going to play call-ins for y'all.
My name is Cathryn. I'm on the spectrum. My brother is 4 years younger than me. My brother got married October 2020 via a COVID wedding. So that was the kick in the crotch that I needed. I'm on Bumble since October 2020. Let me be frank. It kind of sucks. I've been like, I guess, a different sort of catfishing where like the guy will have 5 photos, really handsome guy who also kind of looks like a model. We were eating ceviche together. He was missing all the teeth but 2. I have these rules. The rules are supposed to be don't sleep with anyone until the 3rd date. I have these rules set in place, and then I don't abide by the rules at all. I have a list. It has notes. It has like dated for this amount of time, great things, terrible things. It also has like random hookups. Like I have Joe, the random grocery guy. Oh goodness. Not one of not one of my finer moments, but we met in the produce section. He looks at me with those elevator eyes, where you like look from like the front to like where you look from like the head to the feet. He does one of those. And then he was like, oh, let me take you home. And then I'm like, fine, fuck it. Like, come inside. It was super steamy until he couldn't get it up. But this Bumble guy got my most embarrassing sexual encounters. We get this massive salad together at Virginia Highlands. And then he's like, oh, I don't feel well. Can you come home with me? Can you come take care of me? And I was like, sure, I guess. Like, we didn't finish our salad. Like, this seems really odd. But anyways, we start watching like an MTV Led Zepp documentary, and I'm like, okay, he lights up a bowl. This is kind of sketchy. Like, it seems like you feel fine. It seems like I just fell for this bullshit. Then, he starts saying all these nice things to me, like, oh, you're so beautiful, and, I just wanted time away with you, and, you know, I think I got food poisoning from there, and I didn't want you to keep eating that because food poisoning is a bad thing. And I figured that I could just make you dinner here because I really care about you. And I'm like, okay. So he makes me food. I eat the food, and then I'm in a much better mood. We start fooling around, but then I don't finish. And then he kicks me out of his place. He's like, sorry, I have to sleep the next night. When I first started dating in October 2020, I would tell people that I was on the spectrum. Um, now it's kind of hard because, like, the ideal person loves me for, like, all this weirdness, for my ability to just be, like, blunt and to the point. Maybe there's certain things that I can share, but maybe certain things that I shouldn't share about myself. And so at this moment, I'm not sharing that I'm on the spectrum.
Hi, my name is Hannah. I am Samantha's sister. I had moved back to Georgia from living in South Carolina with a long-term relationship I had just ended. I was just on dating apps to just fill the void of what I had just gone through and try not to be lonely. But I definitely had fun and met a lot of different kind of people. Met this one guy, and we were talking one night, and he said that he was in downtown Atlanta and he was selling rocks. And I was like, oh, I want to buy some sticks. And he was like, oh, I sell a little bit of everything, And I had no idea that that could be serious, like a real thing. Like I was thinking that he was like selling rocks off the ground, and I was like, who does that? Like who's just selling rocks? But then I realized that whenever I was talking to my sister about the conversation, that it could have actually been not rocks off the street. Yeah, most likely. I mean, but then at the same time, like, he really could have been joking and sitting on his couch, and just say that he was. But yeah, that definitely was a thing. Let me tell you about the most awkward, most uncomfortable situation that has ever happened to me with the dating app. I started talking to this other guy, and we got along so well. Everything's fine, and we have fun. And the next day, he like hits me up and is like, "Hey, I had a family emergency, and I just don't feel like I can talk to you right now. Like, I need time to clear my head." And so I'm like, "Okay." So I'm thinking like maybe 3 days. 2 weeks later, he hits me up and just acts like nothing ever happened. I brush it off, like whatever. We hang out again, and we end up hooking up. And we were using a condom, and the condom like comes off inside of me, and I start laughing immediately because like, what do you do? Like, it is embarrassing. And I remember him asking like, what do you do? And I'm like, we have to go to the doctor. Because I didn't know how to get it out. So ultimately, he ends up getting it out himself, and I'm laughing this whole entire time. Like, what do you do? I like when things are weird, I laugh. So that's what I was doing. And this guy is staring at me, dead faced, not entertained at all. This was not fun for him. So I ended up staying the night with him because it was so late. And the next morning I go home, and like he blocks me. I can't call him. The text don't go through. Yeah, so that happened. So dating apps for me were definitely fun. It was a way to block out what I had going on. But as far as being in a better headspace and actually wanting something real, I can't see myself finding someone that I actually want through a dating app. I actually currently am with someone and definitely did not meet him through a dating app. Can't find that quality through a dating app. I actually met him through my boss. She was like, I think you'd be a good fit for my brother if you like this picture. And she shows me a picture of him, and I was like, yeah, you can give him my number, see what happens. And like within a few hours, he messages me, and within like a few conversations, like we hit it off really well. We end up meeting, and we were just together ever since. We get along very well. It's been 2 months. Still haven't had a disagreement, argument. We can get over things really well together. So in my opinion, even though it is hard to find someone organically, that is definitely the better route versus trying to force something online. So in conclusion, if you're in a bad headspace, dating online is perfect. But if you want something real, if you want all of these checkpoints, you want to hold yourself to high standards, someone organic, meeting them out in a restaurant, meeting them at a bar, meeting them through a friend of a friend, having a setup, that's probably the best way to go. I'm Hannah. Thank you for listening.
Holy smokes. The dating scene seems like it's gotten maybe worse. Can we just go back and talk about that situation that Hannah was in?
I think it's hilarious because you're right. It was not just a situation. It was a shit-situation. That should be another shirt.
I have never heard of such things.
Oh, no. I do. Okay. I did get a tampon stuck in myself once.
The truth comes out. I never got to experience apps. My experience was by curious through a friend. We would, she was going through the dating apps and going through things like that. And I would just get to be with her while she did it.
Right.
So I never got to experience it. So I don't really know. But
I probably should throw out there that I do know people who the apps have worked for.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like everybody we talked to today or heard from didn't have good experiences.
What do we think about sweet Cathryn?
She was really cool. I really liked how she mentioned that she used to share that she's on the spectrum, and she kind of said that she doesn't anymore. I wish I could talk to her and just kind of like find out a little bit more about that, because it's one of those things where it's like, what do you share when? When is it time to like show who you are? But then again, I do like how she said it's good for people to kind of find out who I am and love me for my quirks, my bluntness, my honesty.
Yeah.
And maybe you just let people find out. I don't know. It's such a hard
I think it's relatable.
Call.
I think that I know that when I started dating Simon, I had a lot of shit and I really liked him, and I threw all the ugly at him because I was on the opposite where I was like, well, let me just see if I can scare him away.
That's right.
And so I tried to throw all this like he still laughs. He's like, you were trying to scare me away. And I was like, yeah, I was. But
almost a self-sabotage because you didn't believe it could be.
But he's stuck. And so, I mean, I put out all my shit and it worked for me.
Right.
But
right.
I can see how it could go the other way. Honestly, with Cathryn's story about being like the guy saying, oh, I don't feel good.
Oh
like,
my
gosh. Like, I feel like that shit happens. Like,
it does.
That's a thing.
It's so manipulative.
It is.
And then he tries to act like he's not
doing her a favor.
Right. I don't want you to get food poisoning because that would be
fucking get
bad.
Food poisoning in like 5 seconds. Like, calm the roll. Like, oh my God. And then it sounded like their stories were kind of similar, Cathryn's and Hannah's, where it's like there was like some bang bang and then bye.
Right. And then they show up again later.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I hear that a lot too. It's like, I don't know, like some of these men and probably women too think that they can just walk in and out of your life and just kind of.
Yeah. We're dissing on the men right now, but I mean, I do know men that are in the dating scene and on the apps and stuff. And
some of the same
it's the same complaints.
experiences.
Yeah. Especially the like catfishing type.
Right.
The photos that don't match up. Right. I'm hearing that a lot too. It doesn't help with all the filters these days.
These filters, yeah.
Fuck filters.
We sound like old people. These days.
These days.
But yeah, dating apps. Wow. So That's the other thing I was thinking is dating in this world. What is that even supposed to look like?
I hear a lot of, not complaints, that's probably not the right word, but I'm seeing a lot of women like, oh, fuck it, I'm done. Like, I'll just be single forever because everyone sucks.
Well, I guess what I'm kind of getting to is the fact that everyone is so different and there's no way it can look the same for everybody, right?
That is true.
Right. And so today we're going to get a perspective from someone. Her name is Yellow.
Hey, I have been single for about 2 years, and a little bit of backstory on my dating history. I've done the long-term thing, the short-term thing. I've tried a lot. So in the last couple of years of being single, one of the things that I decided to do was have fun little ways to introduce myself. So I started with stickers. I do a lot of design work in my everyday life. And so I had a set of stickers that said, "What up, dude?" But it was a pun based off of the fact that I speak Hindi, and it's a little milk carton, and I would travel and give it to people on trips. So I realized it was a hit. So I made a bunch of stickers after that say like, "Call me, text me, and DM me." And they have my Instagram handle on them and my phone number. I like write in on them out at bars, clubs, farmers markets, you name it. I do have matchbooks that are in progress. The matchbooks haven't come out yet. They will be a fun like 70s theme. Do you feel the spark? With my information on the back. I've yet to print them though, because I'm being really picky about it. The stickers have been a really fun way to like introduce myself. And I love that no matter like whether or not someone messages me or texts me later, I feel like they get like a little prize, like a little token to walk away with.
Right.
And it's a much better interaction for rejection too. Like dating is scary, approaching people is scary, but I'm willing to shoot my shot anywhere. And if nothing else, if they don't smile at the sticker, I don't want to talk to them anyways. You're fucking boring.
So
Too,
you were
I
saying,
really
you've done
like
the
it
long
too.
term, you've done the short term. Where are you now? And well, like a little more backstory on you.
Right now, I'm messy. Approaching 30 very quickly. It is real interesting. I really had this vision back in the day for my life that like by the time, and this is so funny, at 15, I was like, at 25, I'm going to be married. I'm going to have kids. I'm going to do like the house with the picket fence. And then I came out at 19 and realized I'm a little gay, just like a little bit. And it kind of threw a wrench into things where I started dating men and women. And I realized that depending on where I end up and who I end up with, I had to make very conscious decisions about what my life looked like. So when I ended up in a long-term relationship with a woman for almost 10 years, it was a long time. It was really great until it wasn't. And then we ultimately parted ways. And then I decided that I was going to be adventurous. Towards the end of our relationship, I learned that my previous partner was poly. I am not, but I was really willing to be like, you know what, let's see what this is about. Maybe this is a lifestyle choice that people make. Like maybe it's just like a way to date and meet people. Personal opinion, I think we should treat it like a sexual identity. This is not easy, nor can everyone do it. And I really put in the time and effort to learn. And I love how adventurous I was. But now I'm kind of in this in-between space where like I'm doing the situationship thing. I'm meeting people out and about at bars. If I can have an experience, I'm going to. So I don't know what I'm doing. I have no idea. I keep saying I'm dating for like the long term, like to meet my next person, but I'm very aware of the fact that I am making decisions that are absolutely for the plot. So when I'm old and crinkly, I'm going to be like, wow, let me tell you about this one time. I met this guy at the airport and blah, 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 blah. I met this girl dancing in LA and blah, 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 blah. So that's kind of where we exist right now. And which is also part of why the stickers have been so great is because, you know, I kept seeing girls who would like go to music festivals with like postcards or little notes, or they would make friendship bracelets with their phone numbers on it.
This is a thing.
Yeah, dating is so interesting. This is a thing. There's this sort of idea right now in terms of dating where like everyone should shoot their shot.
So that's what this homeboy did to me. He just shoot a shot.
Shot his shoot.
He shot his shot.
Shot is shot.
I love it. I think it's so funny. I used to work hotels, and as you were telling the story and I was listening, I was like, oh my God, I remember being a front desk girl when I was like teeny tiny and people being like, here's my room key if you need it. And I'm like, sir, ma'am, I just keyed this for you. I have the master.
I have your room key.
Like, you didn't have to slide me the extra key. I made you back to me. Like, this is stupid.
Like, literally, they
But
could just be like,
they could, but they don't. And it's so funny because when you mentioned like this person being so young and stuff too, I swear to God, the little ones, and I'm going to call them little. I know they're not babies, whatever, they're adults. But the
I've called
younger
them baby.
ones are bold. They are
Interesting.
so bold in comparison. Oh,
I think
I
you're bold.
would have thought is kind of the opposite because here I see, just from my observations, obviously I'm not in the game, but I see older people, like this old couple who didn't have a problem sitting down, having a conversation and hitting things off. But I see younger people usually being the awkward, not knowing how to socially interact because of all of our technology and social medias. And so that's interesting that you say that you find that younger people are kind of more bold.
I feel like once a younger person shoots their shot, they're committed to shooting that shot. Like there is this really wonderful girl in LA who I met when I was there on a gig years ago. I was working in film. I was like, let's go out for a night, whatever. And I ultimately gave her one of my stickers. She DMs me. We still talk, but when she shot her shot for me, she sent, and mind you, we don't live anywhere close to each other. We live at minimum a 5-hour flight apart.
Okay.
She sent wine bottles, chocolates, coffee money, morning text messages. And I was like, and she's younger than I am. And I was like, hey, I really love this, but like, you understand you don't have to spend money on me. And she was so smooth about it. She goes, pretty women are my vice. Come be mine for today. And I was like, I was shell shocked. I was like, I love this. And I was just like, you know what? Fuck my Atlanta roster. The West Coast girlies are committed.
Oh my God.
She didn't want anything from me. I felt so spoiled. Yeah. And I mean, in that same breath, like, I know you think I'm bold. I love hostels when I travel. The little ones that I've met in hostels who are younger than me, they're like, you never have to call me again, but I'd love if you called me tonight. And I'm just like, the line. I love one-liners though.
I love.
So you know what?
That's a good one.
It's work.
Interesting. Yeah, I try to stay away from hostels when I travel, but I could see if kind of what you were like, meeting people and seeing where things go. Like I could see how that would be fun.
I had no intention of meeting anyone or doing anything when I went. It just happened to work out. So, fun fact, if you decide to do the hostel thing as a single person, they have lots of events. The hostels usually make it a point to have some sort of like nightly sort of activity or like some sort of like food thing so people can meet each other because it's so many people traveling alone.
Wow.
I have never really like intended to meet someone or have a sexual experience in a hostel until the last time I was on the West Coast. I've had a lot of really bad dates. I've had a lot of really fun experiences. I will say too, I'm not usually a one night stand person. I am usually the weekend wifey is what I like to call it.
Aww.
It's this sort of idea where you meet someone for like 24 or 48 hours, you do everything together and then you never see them again.
Okay.
Or you just like, you're like Instagram buddies, but that's kind of it.
I've never heard of this.
Someone who's like emotionally sensitive. You've never heard of it? Oh, I
So
love
is it like
I
you
hope
meet
you
them and
never
you say, can we do a 48 like wifey thing?
It just kind of happens.
No. It's so interesting. You kind of show up meeting people where like there's just for whatever reason you aren't in the same cities or like your schedules aren't in the right time or space for relationships, whatever. But you meet someone, sort of have this like instant, real strong connection. And then all of a sudden your plans go from I'm going shopping in the mall on a Thursday afternoon to I've just spent 4 days with somebody and then I'm never going to see them again.
Pushed people away because I thought, oh yeah, no, this isn't going to work logically, like in the long term. But when I could have I missed on so many experiences that I could have that could have been a good day.
Could have went with it.
And then we never see each other again. And it's okay. I like the way you're thinking.
Thank you. I do casual, not careless. That is my little personal slogan.
Love it.
But yeah, weekend wifeys are the best. If you have any single friends who are like, I want to be adventurous, but I don't know, I highly recommend the weekend wifey experience. There's something about just like showing up and having this sort of like whirlwind weekend romance. And then just you kind of walk away satisfied without feeling taken advantage of. Like you both get something.
So is it set up front?
No, it's not set up like that in advance. Usually this is kind of like a lucky interaction.
So are you having more luck with dating apps and the dating online to get your dates? Are you having more success being out and about and seeing who you find?
I hate dating apps. I hate them so much. I was off of them for about a year while I was just kind of traveling and meeting people on my travels. And then once I realized I needed to kind of like settle down in my home again and invest more time here, I tried dating apps for all of like a month again. I even had a friend um, pay for a premium subscription of Hinge because they're like, hey, you seem like you want something more in depth. Maybe you don't get back on Field or Tinder, and instead you try something like Hinge that's, as their slogan says, meant to be deleted or designed to be deleted, whatever, and you'll have a little more luck.
Right.
Let me tell you right now, I hated it so much. And not even because like meeting people on the apps is its own nightmare. I was thoroughly convinced that the algorithm for Hinge was made to only put me in front of people who I did not find attractive. The way they tried to lean into like this sort of personality side of things drove me crazy because the questions that you're prompted with are they're still relatively shallow questions, right? Tell me about a thing you like to do, show a picture of like a new skill you're learning, stuff like that. Things that are important, but like you're not going to start a heartfelt conversation about that. And I do think that dating apps are really like you should lean into the idea that you like what your partners look like. And I will be the first one to say looks matter.
Yeah.
If you are not physically attracted to a person and sex matters to you in your life, looks matter. It does, like in the long term, they will change and shift. But for the initial meeting, you need something. You're not just going to feel the spark because their coffee order is the same as yours. Like the attraction comes from somewhere. So and I say all of this to preface the fact that like when I was on this app specifically, it made me feel incredibly ugly. So I am a person who has been very fortunate that like when I go out and I'm like at a bar or dancing or whatever, I do shoot my own shots, but I do get approached a lot too. I've had really good experiences on both sides of like, I know if I look a certain way, like when I get done up or dressed up, somebody's going to talk to me. Like almost without a fail, it's just been a life experience that I think is great. And also think comes partially just from being a woman in general. I think women get approached all the time by all kinds of people. Whether or not you want to be approached by the person that's talking to you at midnight in the club is a different story. But knowing that like the baseline for women in general is that you're going to be considered attractive and approached and whatever, being on an app where the interactions and matches I were getting were so few, and so many of the ones that were saying like the app would tell you like you have X new likes, and then you'd open it up and maybe one person out of that entire list is someone you might talk to in the real world, was incredibly damaging for my mental and my confidence. I was just like, I was having breakdowns because I was lonely and in my singlehood and just like, well, what do I do? Because I don't want to keep being in these situationships or these like shitty dates, but I'm on this app and you're telling me the only people that like me are these like people who look like they still live in their parents' basement or they don't have a job or they don't have hobbies. Like, where's my person?
Troll.
You're supposed to be designed to be deleted and I'm giving you money. Where's my person? I hated it so much.
Yeah. I think that's probably very relatable to what most people are experiencing.
So what did you do?
I gave it the month that my friend had paid for, and then I deleted everything. And then I printed my stickers, a new batch of stickers, and I started passing them out again. I just passed one out the other day to a musician I met in a coffee shop. I passed one out yesterday to a girl I met at the dog park. Like, we are just throwing it to the wind and hoping for the best.
I love this.
Is this like your eyes catch and you just slip it over to them and then just walk off? Or do you say something like, "Hey, I think you're cute. Maybe we can hit it off. Here you go."
Or you already have a conversation going and then you hand it to them before you leave?
Kind of a combination of things. I mean,
All of the above.
when you're out dancing or something, you're not really talking to people. You're just kind of in the same space. So, like the other day, I had ordered something. I sat down. I had made eye contact with this guy who's sitting across at the table next to mine. And he like smiles. I smile. And I was like, I really love your hair. Like, he looked like the hot version of what I thought Beast, like from Beauty and the Beast, like what he should have looked like when he turned into a person. He was just like, his hair was so like beautiful. So like, I like saw him, he saw me, I complimented him and he was like, "Oh, you have a great smile," whatever. And then he started the conversation where he's like, "What are you here for? Are you working? Are you whatever?" And we just started talking. And then he got a phone call, had to walk away. My friend who I was meeting showed up. And I just went ahead and let my friend know. I was like, "Hey, you were gone, like you didn't show up for 10 minutes. I started talking to this person just as a heads up when they sit down again, I am going to go pass my number. And then you have my attention again." And she's just like, "Yeah, do your thing, like just whatever." He comes back, I get up, I put my sticker on the table and I was like, "Hey, if you feel like carrying on the conversation, hit me up again." And so he's just like cheesing because now he has this random thing in his hand. I go to sit down with my friend. I have a great time with my friend. She leaves. I'm packing up. He happens to still be there. And he tells me, he's like, "This is probably going to take the cake. I've never had a sticker." And I'm like, "Great. I'm glad you have it." And then I leave. So like the interactions like that are super great, organic. The other half of the reason I deleted the apps was like, I also realized that I want this grand sort of feeling when it comes to love. And prior to being on the apps, I had had a really great, what I would consider success, a full year of dating as a single person, where I was meeting everyone in public at different events. I met one guy at the farmer's market. I met a girl at the library, like all kinds of just like whatever interaction. I met someone waiting in line, checking out at Target. And those, they're like everyday mundane things, but I really enjoyed those people for however long they were in my life. So I'm still shooting my shot in the wild. I am not re-downloading the apps as long as I am having fun. It's still lonely sometimes. Don't get me wrong. It really sucks. Like the other day, I felt really upset because I was like, I want to be loved and cared for. Where's my person? Like, I know other people are single and exist here. Um, and like, you feel down about it, whatever. And then I had to remind myself why I'm not on the apps, why I'm doing this in real life, introducing myself, having these interactions. Because I will say, I've tried a lot. Like, I went on a dating show. I've actually gone to 2 dating show events.
I love that you're letting yourself have that experience.
What is like the worst date? How did you get on it? And how did it go wrong?
Oh my God. I made a mistake. Let me tell you how I know this was a mistake. It
That's how
was,
you know it's a good one.
I I was on this poly dating site and I was like, "You know what? This will be fun, whatever." I had agreed to go on this date with this girl because I thought like, we both did pole dancing. We seemed like we had a lot in common. She said that she was like, you know, a lesbian, etc. And I was like, "Great. I'm everything is lining up. You seem cool." I showed up for this date. Um, we went to, oh my God, we went to grab coffee and then we're in this like small town square close to Atlanta, but it's like one of the little side cities, right? Like we're in Decatur. And she proceeds to start telling me stories about how, she used to go to high school here and she loves it. And she's starting to walk me around the city and just point out all the things she used to do when she was like 14. Um, Mind you, I had mentioned to this woman that let's do a coffee shop or something like cute and casual because she had suggested a hike. And I up front told her, "Hey, I am not a wilderness girl. I should not be outside. Like, that's it." She tried to get me to climb a tree with her.
What?
We were like walking, and there's this really big, beautiful tree outside of the library in that downtown space. And she just starts climbing the tree as she's talking to me. She's now like 7 feet above my head. And she's like, "Come on, get up here." And I was like, "Hey, I'm not really a tree climber. Like, remember when I said I don't want to go hiking with you?" kind of thought that included the fact that I don't want to climb a tree with you.
Sentences you never thought you would have to say on a date.
Yeah. But she said it, and I was like, she's already up there. She's like, you could try like the low branch. And I was just like, all right. And then I get up there, there are ants all over the place, and I'm freaking out because I don't like bugs. And you can see me like visibly being anxious. And I'm telling her, like, hey, this is like cute or whatever. I'm going to hop down. And she's like, no, I don't want to talk to you. I was like, you can keep talking to me. I'm just going to be on the floor while you're in the tree. So she's like, okay, yeah, let's do that. So now she's hanging from this tree talking to me for like a solid 40 minutes. Mind you,
Hanging from her legs or arms.
Sam needs the real picture.
I need to be able to visualize this.
Kind of both. She's got like one leg wrapped over and an arm over like a different branch. So she can kind of
I can do this.
Superman style look down at me as we're having this conversation. Yeah, we were really monkeying around.
Real person.
Listen, she had a regular name and attitude. She looked normal. Okay. So she's like hanging there. She's talking to me.
Town Square.
She's starting to like, ask certain questions about like why I'm on the dating site, why I'm like doing all these different things. And I'm like explaining to her that, I'm looking for a very specific physical connection with people. I have a long-term partner that I was in love with, etc. And I asked her the same. I was like, so why are you on this site? Are you poly? Are you this? Like, what's the vibe? And she proceeds to tell me how she is actively married to someone and has recently realized that even though she's in this marriage with this man, that she's a lesbian. And so she has been mostly asexual through this experience. She's like, I don't really have a lot of like pleasure or joy from this. Like, so now I'm looking to explore other relationships. I was like, okay, that makes like sense for where you are. So I was like, so are you divorced or are you in the divorce process? And then she tells me, no, actually, I'm not going to divorce him. She is a lesbian who wanted to remain married to this man. It proceeds to get a little bit more interesting because as she's telling me this, telling me how wonderful this is and how her husband needs a physical connection, but like, so he's also on the app and stuff. She mentions his name. And then I realize I've also matched with her husband on the app. And I tell her this. I was like, hey, before we keep talking, I know we're like an hour into this date. I think I did match with your man though. Like, just as a forewarning, I'm not looking for this like emotional whatever. I'm not into like, I don't want to be in a throuple. And she's like, yeah, I can respect that, whatever. And then she tries to get me to climb up on the tree again, but it's like the sun's gone down now. And I'm just sitting here baffled that I'm on this date with this girl who's like, one, not really listening to anything I've said I wanted, but also is just like, yeah, please go on a date with my husband. And I'm like, ha ha ha, she's just kidding. We're going to put a pin in that thought and remember this. The next day when she messaged me to tell me she had a wonderful time, she also decided to send me this very lengthy message about how, she doesn't know if she'll still be an asexual person when she starts to have experiences with women. And I'm telling her, I don't think this is not a risk I'm willing to take. I already know I want a sexual experience and you are not looking for that. Like, I'm not trying to be the experiment in between. Also, the fact that I matched with you and your husband is a little weird to me. Not because there's anything wrong with it, just because like, I already know now that I don't really like you. Like, I thought kind of boring. I would have to see you all the time. I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you. I don't care how attractive your husband was or anything. Like, I tried to talk to her about her pole dancing and stuff like that because it was something I was really passionate about and she seemed to be passionate about. And then she just kept giving me one word answers for it. So at the end of this, when I'm trying to explain like, hey, it was really great to meet you, but I think I'm good, she tries to call me. I don't answer. So she leaves me a voicemail explaining to me how even though she can understand how I might not want to interact with her because of what she's looking for, that I should take the risk on her and have like a second date. And if I wasn't willing to have a second date with her, that I should she wanted to know if she could give my information to her husband because I should go on a first date with him at least. Because everything I said I was looking for is what her husband was looking for. Needless to say, I removed her number and did not respond after that. I was real weirded out. It was not good. I also will never ever let go of the fact that this girl was literally climbing trees and trying to like get me to be a tree person with her. I'm just like I still had a coffee in my hand.
There has to be an ulterior motive. Like, what if she was wondering if getting it on in a tree was a thing for her?
Outside of a public library, I don't know if that's the place for me.
Public sex is a thing.
Public sex is a thing, and it's a great thing. Just not places where families are.
I have tried to get my husband to have sex with me in bar bathrooms, on airplanes. I have tried all the things, and the best I have gotten is on a public balcony.
I highly recommend an elevator. I'm just going to throw that out there. It is a quick space to start something. Hands are fair game. Makeouts are fair game.
Oh, this is exciting. Simon and I are going to go to a hotel now.
10 floors. You've got 10 floors to start something that you can finish in your hotel room.
So I heard that there might have been a dungeon thing. What is this?
Sam's jumping in.
Let's do it. I wanted to be adventurous and have a very specific experience after one of my past breakups. I think the first time I ever really entered like a true kink space, I was like 21 or 22. And I was learning very quickly that I liked shibari because of this guy I was seeing.
Wait.
So it's rope play. It's just like, people take ropes and things and you can be in different ties or holds. It's a very patient activity, I would say, because like in order to do this, it really is a slow game. That is true. You kind of have to be comfortable and trust.
It's a suspension thing though, right?
Sometimes, not all the time. I do like the suspension personally. The person that I was first interacting with when I was learning about it and whatever, we did do the suspension thing. I will say there's nothing exactly like it, but it was very thrilling for me the very first time where I was like, you're going to hang me from a ceiling?
What?
But like, don't kill me, but I like this.
Oh no. This poor Brett. He's got some high things to live up to now.
So I loved doing things with that person, whatever. And then I ended up with my long-term partner, and then that just like wasn't really their thing. And so it didn't happen. But when I became single again, or actually when I was trying to figure out if I could do the poly thing again, or / like transitioning into my singlehood, I had hit up that same guy again. I was like, hey, it's been a couple years. Want to play? Like, I'm looking for something fun, lightweight, like, hang out with me. Let's do some like fuck shit and then leave me alone.
Right.
Which I feel like was a straight man's dream, to be like, this hot bisexual girl I used to talk to just asked me if I can be your fuck buddy. And so I was like, nope, I'm ready. I did. Like round 2 of the interactions with this person were just as good as round 1, and a very different type of adventurous. I loved it. I will say it only ended because he moved to New York. And so that's when I decided that I was going to go adventure a little bit, and I wanted to know what dungeon spaces were like, because I had met a few dominatrixes in life. And like, people say things where they're like, I just think you'd like it. You'd have fun. It's a great community. Everybody thinks everything is a great community. Okay. But I will say they were right about this one. There used to be a space called Dark Haven in Atlanta. It was a POC friendly kink space, and they held workshops. So I went to a shibari workshop there with a friend who had gone to other dungeons and spaces with her dom friends and like kink friends and like sex worker friends, etc. And I was like, ooh, I don't know about this. But I will say I was very intentional when I chose to go, because I wanted to make sure to choose a space that was going to be brown girl friendly, because I didn't want to show up and be fetishized. I was just like, it's one thing when it's like, oh, I've never like had this experience with a person, whatever. Or it's one thing if it's like, you just happen to have not been with someone of a certain culture. It is an entirely different experience when you're sitting across from someone and you are unclothed and you're trying to have this fun experience and they go, I've never been with an Indian girl. Because
Oh,
then everything in your body just kind of like rejects the experience. I'm like, this is not fun.
yeah.
Like, don't
It's
do that.
like, that's not who I am. Like, you've also never been with me, yellow. Of
Exactly.
course it's a part.
So
I didn't mean to say it's not. But it's just, wow, I hate that.
So what was this workshop?
yeah,
That's what I wanted to know more about too.
yeah. So the workshop really was about, they sort of, they would have like this, I can't remember if it was weekly or monthly, but they would have these sessions where people could come either by themselves or with a person, and you could learn to do different ties. And so because I was single, the guy that I used to play with was now in New York. I'm like, oh, I still want to do this thing. How do I do this? And then I thought about it. I was like, I bet I could learn to do this safely by myself here. And I really actually loved it. I got to go and I learned how to tie a harness around myself. I learned how to do like something called a mermaid tie where your feet are bound together, how to do certain knots that would hold you without getting tighter so you won't constrict blood flow, but you'd still be secure and stable. And it was really cool because I was so nervous about going by myself. I took a friend with me. I was like, hey, Tiff, I really want to do this. I know you have friends who are DOMs. Like, I know you've already been to, there's this thing called the farm that's like an open play space or whatever. I was like, I know you've been to the farm. Will you come to this with me? So one thing that I found really interesting is like, I think, at least for me, I was a little bit ignorant when I was first looking at all of this stuff. I kind of had this idea that I was like, oh, it's just going to be like a room with all this stuff on the wall and blah, 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 blah. It's not. When I went to this first dungeon, I really thought when I walked in from the outside, I was like, hold on, this looks shady. Like it's dark outside, the windows are blacked out, and it's a very small building.
Okay.
And then when I went inside, it's so homey. It does feel like a church community center. So funny enough, Melissa, you had mentioned like having experiences in a religious space.
Yeah.
I walked in, there are incense, there are, and I was a little skeptical at first because there are images of like Hare Krishna and Radha, which are like, you know, Hindu deities that I have like worshiped to in my daily life. But a lot of people who are spiritual also follow this. So when I walked in and I realized that this was a heavily POC space and a respectful space, I immediately felt a lot calmer. I was like, okay, you're not just here for like I want good vibes. I want to like, you know, be in touch with your aura. And instead it was like no, I'm actually like spiritual and like I like meditate and do yoga, and I genuinely believe in like these energy transfers and karmic flow and etc. I was like, okay, love this so much. So it's so funny though, because when you first walk in, it's an open room. There are a couple of chairs and like sofas, but there's no play equipment. Like,
okay,
it really is like just a regular room.
My thought would be what you said.
Exactly. Instead, they have different rooms for different things. So for people who like to do like medical play, like, you know, cutting, playing with razors, like bloodletting, that kind of stuff, they have a designated area with sanitizers and tools, a shower, no matter what room you're going to. If you want to change clothes, there's like a little locker and changing rooms. You're not just expected to like instantly show up and be a sexual person.
You have no idea who is walking through that front door and what experience they have yet. And so it seems like a really smart idea to kind of separate those things so that there can be some feelings of safety. Like, I didn't know there was such thing as, well, I guess I kind of knew I know there's all kinds of kinks, but I didn't realize there was spaces set up for that, like you said, medical play. But if I had walked in and saw that immediately, it probably would have freaked me out. And then you kind of, so
You're
it's
already shut off to an experience.
that.
Yeah.
Right. So I feel like it's really neat that you're saying it's set up to be safe. It's set up to
kind of private
as you want, maybe.
Yeah, there's even like they even have a kitchen so you can grab snacks, water, that kind of thing. They host like cuddle puddles there and movie nights. And then they do have a room that's like what you would think of, that's like painted red with like, you know, beams and hooks or not hooks, but like, you know, places for like constraints, etc. Like So the range
Right.
of what you'll see is so different. And like going in as a single person, that was really interesting. I saw married couples coming in. When I was doing the workshop, I saw people who are like, they're dating, but they're like fresh to kink spaces in general, who don't have any idea what they're doing. People who have been in it for a while, who have brought their play partners to be models so they can show what different ties are. I met a non binary person in the community who was just trying to learn
Oh.
by themselves and was working on suspension, but they needed a safe place to do it. They weren't just going to do it at home in their apartment. So this was a space that you could show up once a week. And if one of the ties wasn't right, there were other people around who had already been asked to like kind of watch that could just, cut their rope real quick. Like
Kind of like a spotter.
exactly like a spotter. So I I loved it. I wish that space was still open. It unfortunately shut down. I'm sure I'll find another one someday. But
Wow. Are there any other places like that do workshops and stuff for couples? Because, or not couples, just for anyone. Because I would like to go as
yeah,
a
I
couple.
actually will say if you're not willing to go in person somewhere and you're in some sort of like dating space or kink exploration space, or you're looking to be, start with like Instagram. I think it's so funny. We forget that like the internet is such a vast resource. I've actually found a lot of tantric instructors there, people who used to work in dungeons. There are a few people that I really like to follow for like, tantric stuff specifically. When I was starting to look and explore that, I was going out with someone who was like, hey, you mentioned this, and I know it's not something you got to experience with me, but if you're still looking for it, here's this instructor that I saw that I think you'd be really comfy with. I now still follow that instructor, even though I haven't been in that space or met her in person or anything. I just really love her content, and the way she approaches teaching is really great. And it's free, it's on the internet. Like it was very approachable.
How do you find Instagrams like that?
Searching hashtags is a great way. Um, if you know that there are certain types of
Mm.
spaces for you, like example, I really love the sex shop here called Tokyo Valentino. They're like people who are buying things from there or promoting like that they're going to have like workshops using certain toys that they got from there. They'll post and tag the original store. So I'll just go through the tagged posts. Same thing with the dungeon. If they're going to
Oh.
have an event and I wanted to learn something specific, I was scrolling through their social pages because I actually originally found the dungeon through also Instagram, funny enough. Um, so I would scroll through the pages and then I would see
Okay.
like, okay, they have a Shibari instructor. Oh, they have a this instructor, that instructor. And then I would look onto their site and be like, okay, do they have a website? Do they have dates for a calendar that I can come to these events? Do I have to make like kink specific profiles for this? Because like in order to go to certain spaces, you do have, sometimes you have to have a profile on a kink site already. Um, there are a few that are just like
Mm.
standard, but start there. Start with a place or a location or something and
Yeah.
just start searching hashtags. You'll slowly but surely find influencers. Like when I wanted to learn more about Shibari, I was following people on like TikTok who were Shibari artists who had their own lines of ropes and things, who would talk about specific ties, apparel, how to like kind of like re-massage certain limbs if you had accidentally played too long and you were just like, you were starting to get a Charlie horse or something, like, how do you fix that sort of like cramping that happens? Like things that are relevant and important to knowing about the kinks that aren't actually about the activity sometimes were super, super helpful.
I love that because I am in a committed relationship, but I would love to experiment and try some more things, but I don't even know where to start. And so I love that you're suggesting, like, yeah, they do have workshops, they do have sex shops. Like, get out there and try because you want to keep that spice in your life. I'm learning so much. We're kind of getting into, are we talking about sex? Are we talking about dating? And they're so intertwined,
But so separate.
but so separate.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, I think you have to have rules about sex and dating.
I would say that's true. I think it's really interesting in today's dating world. There's kind of a split that I feel like is happening where people are either being really bold and like leaning into the romantics of things where they're like, let's go get dinner, let's hang out, and planning really thorough, thought out dates. On the opposite end,
Okay.
there are a lot of people who I feel like are afraid of commitment and nervous about whatever next step is, that they want to go so slow, which everyone should get their pace. That's fine, whatever. But I know people who they won't do anything other than a coffee date as a first date. I know people who they won't drink for the first 3 dates. They won't go to certain activities, etc. There are a lot of people I know who have curfews for dates where they're like, I will meet you between X hours. If like 10 p.m. hits, it doesn't matter if it's a Friday or Saturday night. It doesn't matter if it's a good time. They go home. They go, that's it. I'm done.
Okay.
Cinderella rules apply, and they leave. It's very
Wow.
interesting to see how people are kind of maneuvering through the space. Like for myself personally, I have a safety plan. I do not go on dates with people without sharing my location with 2 people. One will always be in state and one out of state. There is always a set timestamp of when I tell them, like, I'm going to let you know I'm okay at X hour. If they don't hear from me, they're supposed to call, check my location, whatever. Throw out the like initial yellow lights of, are we actually okay? Like, did you just get distracted because you're having a good time? Or do I need to call the police?
I think that's
Like,
really important. I had friends that would date and they were on the dating apps and they were going out on these random, technically blind dates. You don't really know who you're meeting. And it got to the point where I was like, dude, I need to know the address of where you're going, when you are expecting to be home. Like, I need to know things now because I'm starting to get worried.
And you love them.
It's so important. It's really funny. I know people who, when they go on first dates, especially, they're like, here's their Tinder profile. I'll check in with you later. Some people don't share their phone numbers when they first do stuff. I personally am like, if I don't have your number and a first and last name, I don't know that I want to come out with you. Like,
yeah,
how much are you investing in me and my time? Because again, I'm trying to date for the long term at this stage in life. Whether or not I'm doing it is a different story. We're working on that.
That was one of my questions.
I'm still adventuring. As much as I'd like to say that like, this is what the goal is. I mean, I have a active situationship right now that I really am enjoying, and I have no intention of letting go of until I meet someone I'm really willing to invest in. I'm enjoying whatever stage of affection and pleasure that I can have until the next thing shows up.
So you're not closed off. Like, if someone walked in the door tomorrow and you're like, this is the person that I want to settle down with, or I think I can, like, you cut off all of your side things and you take it seriously with them. Like, you're open to, that's like your goal.
That's the goal.
In the meantime, we're going to have fun. We're going to see what we like. We're going to just have experiences.
Exactly. So like, a good example of this is like how serious I am about just enjoying my time now while still looking for my long-term goals is the fact that, like, I know people get really worried. A lot of people in situationships tend to be like, well, I'm not going to sleep with anyone else or do anything with anyone else. I'm still going on dates with other people.
I want to say situationship's a new word in the last 10 years.
I think it's a more polite word for fuck buddy.
Absolutely is a more polite word. It's
okay.
a level up from what I would say friends with benefits used to be.
So is there still a fantasy that you're trying to mark off?
There is one I'm trying to redo. I did have a thing for airplanes. The last time I was on a flight and I was close to having a satisfying experience, someone started violently vomiting in the back and it killed everything for me. I was horrified because I was so close. I was like, and mind you, like, it was the turbulence that was doing something for me. I wasn't actually playing with another person. I was listening to smut, basically. And as I'm listening to this on this flight, there's turbulence, and I'm like, it's very conveniently timed to the storyline. And so I'm like in this airplane, just like, it's fine, I can hold this together. And I'm just like, we're going to control our breathing. We're going to, like, it can look like I'm having a panic attack maybe, but not like anything else is happening. Like, no, hands are like on our side, invisible, because, on top of the blankets, just, and then I can, like, my partner at the time was on the flight neck with me, and they look at me and they're like, are you fucking serious? Because they know my expressions. And I'm literally sitting there and being like, do you remember what I said? Like, end of the world, like, earthquake sex could be a fun, like, pretend fantasy thing. And they're
Oh,
just
yeah.
like, the fucking turbulence. And they're looking at me there and like, Yellow, you are not. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do anything. And then all of a sudden I hear it from the back of the plane, just this violent vomiting. And everything, everything on the plane goes silent. And then it starts to smell. And we're all just sitting there, just like trying to not embarrass this poor person who's been sick. And I'm just like angrily sitting in my chair, like kicking my feet because I was like, I was so close. I was so close to my experience that I was hoping for.
Like,
So we do need to go, but I had one more question as a closing question. So you said you came out and you've said that you're really spiritual. How was that family wise? How did that go?
It kind of depended on who the family member was. My siblings were really great about it. My parents needed time to adjust, is how I'll describe it. I really think that there's this sort of idea when you come out that your friends and family either really love you and support you and they can just accept it and keep going, or they just don't and you have to cut people out. I don't agree with that. As someone who, had a more conservative upbringing, one thing that someone said to me years ago that really helped put it into frame for me is I had a friend who told me that when she came out, she didn't just have to grieve like what her life looked like and how it was going to change. She also had to give her parents the time and space to grieve what they thought her life would look like. Because as parents, they do have an expectation and hope for us, that we get a good job, we find a good partner, we have a happy, successful, healthy life. And when you come out, especially as a person of color and a person who grows up in more conservative spaces, one of the things that you have to come to terms with is that your weddings don't look the same. You might not have one. The community, like this idea of this 500 person big fat Indian wedding, that doesn't exist for everybody.
yeah.
I think it's very fortunate that now you can get on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter and see other queer people of color from the same background who do get to have these big fat weddings and call the entire, what I'll call their village together. But you coming out isn't just you coming out. It's you to your friends, you to casual people and interactions, you to your parents, and then the extended circle of all those people who ask your parents growing up and on a day-to-day basis, how are your kids? How is their job, school, work, whatever, are now asking at certain ages, especially like I said earlier, I'm entering my 30s. People are starting to ask, is Yellow married or looking for someone, dating anyone, etc. Because it's a very natural part of where society thinks we should be in life. And so for me coming out and not having immediately joyful expressions from my family or friends, even sometimes, it was less of a, oh no, people aren't accepting, and more of a, they need time. And ultimately, some people have taken time and kind of hit that acceptance with me. Some people haven't. I will say, as far as my parents go, it is a constant learning curve for both of us. There are times that I'll make a joke about being bi or something and it lands really funny. Or my dad specifically will make a joke and it's funny and we just have a little banter and then we leave it. But we don't really talk about our sexual experiences or anything like that. I don't really talk about dating with my parents. It is a personal preference for me. That is not the type of relationship we have. But we have family dinners and we hang out. And without a doubt, one thing I will say is your parents do love you. They don't love all your choices. And so when you ask me how accepting or how it was a learning curve, and it is always going to be a learning curve. I don't think that's true for everything and everyone. Some people really do have parents who, quote, don't love them anymore or don't care to be in their lives anymore. I've been very fortunate that mine still want to be in my life and they show up in every way that they know how. But there will always be ways that they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
That is
That's
so
fair.
beautifully put. That is very thoughtful and very deep.
Yeah. I love, again, it's back to the not everything's black and white, is it? Yeah.
Mhm. The basis of what we are.
Yeah. That's right. Yellow, this has been so amazing. Thank you for being vulnerable and just sharing your experiences with us.
Anytime. I loved it. I'm really grateful everyone listening. If anyone is more curious about maybe some of the more sexual escapades, spicy stuff, but still willing to have a mature conversation about it, I am on another podcast called We're All Adults. It's hosted by a company called IAF Media, and it's me and two other people, and we really get into some fun conversations of like, would you have a threesome? Would you do this? Would you do that? Have you done this? Like what it feels like, what we've learned from it. It's less of a let's talk shit and keep going, and more of a let's talk a little bit of shit and also be a little grown up about it and have a mature ending conversation of did we learn things? I love that space for anyone who's curious about any of it. You guys should be guests.
I would love to. That'd be fun.
Yes.
I would say the biggest thing that I got from you would be put yourself out there. Just do it. Like go and put yourself in a different situation that maybe does make you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Which I know we all hate dating anyway, so we're going to be uncomfortable no matter which way we do it. So
That is true.
let's just pull the Band-Aid off.
This was fun. This was spicy and everything in between.
Thank you, Yellow.
Thank you both. Bye.
Bye. That's what we have for you today, Skirts Up Squad. Just remember to please
Rate and review.
rate and review. It is the number one thing that you can do for us right now.
Yeah. We love that you're listening, but other people aren't going to find us if we're not getting rated and reviewed. Rate and review.
Rate and review. Rate and review.